Welcome to the Dope Dad Podcast. This is an unscripted journey for those who are invested in parenting. There's no judgment, there's no BS, just honest conversation about what it really means to be a dad today. It's raw, it's real, and it's unapologetically dope. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. This is the Dope Dad Podcast. I'm your host, OJ. We're at Podwork Studios out here in Mesa, Arizona. Today's a huge episode for me, man. I am beside myself pumped. I've got my closest homeboy here from Seattle, man. We have got history. I was going to say oldest homeboy, but I don't want to put him on blast like that. We're up there in age, but longest length of friendship I have carried into my adulthood. So, yeah, man, like we got mad history, man. I'm going to jump straight into it. This is my best friend, my older brother, Nate Conrad. What's up, bro? Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Bro, thanks for being here.
Doing a great job.
Thanks, Doug. So a little backstory. I mean, dude, I was thinking about it earlier today, bro. 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years of friendship, bro.
Yeah.
Because you rolled up to the house with Bean back in the day when we were still in like Kenmore area.
And then just never left.
Yeah, at 14 years old, bro.
Mama Kay took me in.
Yeah, man.
Never left the couch.
Yeah, dude. So we've come a long way, man. I mean, we've got shit. Within the 30 years, man, we've lived so many different places together. We've had so many different friendships come and go and relationships come and go. You moved down to Arizona shortly after I moved to Arizona. So I came in 2004. You came in 2005, 06, something like that. Yeah. So... and now you've recently got married down here. You've got two kiddos down here, man. Yeah. One that moved from Seattle. So obviously, man, it was only right to try to invite you on the show, man. I know it took a little bit of tweaking to finally get you out here and lured into the show, man. But I'm super happy that you joined me, bro. No,
man, it's all love, and I'm super excited to show my support and whatever I can do to help you on your journey, and hopefully. My story people can connect with and even if you can't, maybe learn something from. That's the goal.
Yeah, dude. That's totally dope. So I didn't have kids till I came down here. Obviously, man, like we were living together. I
remember.
I remember. You were there through the early times. I mean, you were through there through the the early relationship with me and Mars.
Sure.
Through my miscarriage, you were a support for me through that, man. Through actual childbirth, being at the hospital and being one of the first people to lay eyes and hold shorties, when they were born, man. So like, obviously we've got mad history, man. But you were a dad before you ever left Seattle.
Yeah. I remember it like it was yesterday. My son is 21 now, about to be 22. It was a long time ago, and it was an experience. There's nothing quite like seeing the process of your child being born.
Did you watch?
I tried, man. I tried. It's rough. I actually did the rookie mistake that you never do after one, and that's look below the curtain. And yeah, I looked below the curtain, dropped like a fly.
Should I be passed out?
Oh, dude, lights out.
No fucking way.
Lights out.
How did I not know this?
It's embarrassing as fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Like, like nobody wants to be that guy that drops out in the middle of childbirth. But man, I saw what I saw and there was no unseeing it, and it was seared into my brain and I just couldn't deal.
That's some movie shit.
It was really embarrassing, really traumatic.
Which is funny because through my life, you've always been like this iconic pillar of strength. You have this facade about you, bro, that just, nothing phases you. And so here's childbirth and you're laying on the ground.
Well, everything phases me. What I choose to show, it's a little bit different, but in that moment for all of you dads out there, and as you well know, it's truly a special thing watching the, another being coming into existence.
It's crazy.
Pretty magical.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched all three of mine be born, and I made it through the gauntlet. I didn't pass out.
You're a stronger man than I.
But bro, I was more fixated on the child than anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was looking at everything.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a lot.
For sure.
A lot going on
So how old were you at the time?
25.
25.
Yeah.
Looking back at it now, I mean, you're about to be 45 or you are 45?
I think I'm 46.
You're 46.
I don't know. I lie about my age so much that...
Well, you got me by 3, right? You're 77 or you're 78?
78. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So 46, about to turn 47. Looking back to 25, do you think that you were ready to be a pops?
Absolutely not. I don't know when somebody is ready.
Okay, so I guess that's my next question. It had nothing to do with age, huh?
No. I remember the conversation that me and his mother had. We were nowhere ready to be parents. I remember I was in the basement of my grandma's house, and she was, over and we're doing our thing. And she looks at me, she was like, let's have a kid. And I said, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And it
turned out you were good at it?
It didn't take much longer after that to, make that into a reality.
Yeah. Thinking about your emotional state at the time, I mean, dude, because we were still pretty reckless. I recall that time of our lives being pretty carefree, didn't take responsibility very serious, we were all right, like we showed up to every job and we worked really hard, and I think we always kind of, rose to the top as far as a performance thing. But outside of work, that was kind of the only consistency in our lives, right? Like we were pretty careless. We moved about. We spent our money aimlessly. There was no financial responsibilities or saving or looking to buy a house or any of those, long-term moves. Looking at like a young person with that mind state about to have a child, I mean, what do you think it was? Just lost in the moment?
100%. Yeah. I feel like I was completely infatuated with her at the time, and I wanted that experience to continue as, when you're in a relationship, you never see the end of it, right? So I certainly wasn't planning on that relationship ending, and it only seemed right at the time. Looking back, would I recommend other people do it that way? Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. So she's back in Seattle. You're back in Seattle. You guys just have this baby. What's that like? What's it like embracing fatherhood as a 25-year-old with somebody that you think this love's going to last forever?
Well, for us, it didn't. We didn't even make it through the pregnancy. We separated before he was even born, which added a little bit of chaos to the mix, because how do you take these feelings that you had for somebody, sharing a child with them, but now you're no longer together, and how do you split that responsibility of having a child? For us, it was a long and complicated road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, to have that happen before parent even comes to fruition, like you don't even know what you need. Like you're far from having any idea what your needs are, and then add a child to the mix.
On top of the fact that our solution was not okay, you take him on the weekends kind of scenario. It was, we're going to do every other day. You have him one day, I'll have him the next day. So at 25 years old, as you said, being young and reckless, not really having experienced much responsibility, to now have a newborn child that I have to take care of. What do? You
remember doing bottles and diaper changes and all that shit?
Yeah. It was a figure it out as you go along kind of thing. And there were multiple failures. There were, great accomplishments, but ultimately it was a tough road.
Bottle feeding, bro. That's something else, huh?
If you know me, you know that I will do whatever task in the easiest way possible. So I would have all sorts of contraptions, like I remember being in the hospital and they taught me how to like comfort the baby by trapping their arms with a blanket and rolling them like a little burrito.
Yeah.
I remember taking him, wrapping his arms up so he couldn't move, sticking him in one of those chairs that do the
The little
bounce
rocker
thing,
things, yeah.
and like tying a towel that held the bottle up where it just like auto fed him.
Yeah, dude.
I'd hit the little switch and then whatever, do my own thing.
Dude, I have a crazy ass memory with Carradine. She was young and she was sleeping in the bed. So she was, who knows, bro, like 6 months or something like that. She was out of the crib, but she was in the bed. And she kept asking for milk. And it's like, dude, it's pitch black. Like we laid down, I gave her a bottle. She wakes up in the middle of the night. She's asking for sese. It's leche, is milk in Spanish, but she just called it sese. And she's like, sese. I'm like looking around, I'm like eyes closed. I'm like feeling around. I like find a bottle and I'm like, here's the bottle. And she like takes a couple sips and she like throws it and she's like, sese. I'm like, fuck, dude. Find the bottle, give her the bottle. She tosses it and she's like, sese. And I'm like, dude, take the bottle. Eat the damn milk. What's the problem? Like, what's the disconnect here? You want the milk? Here's the milk. She finally like drinks the milk and passes out. We wake up the next morning, bro. And I'm like, moving all the covers and shit. And there's the bottle of milk and it's full.
Nice.
So the bottle that I had given her was some fucking ancient prehistoric artifact bottle that was like somewhere in the bed that I just happened to grab in the middle of the night, bro. That was like probably like her trying to extract cottage cheese through a nipple, bro. I felt like such a piece of shit, bro. It was like the worst failure. And my wife's too, just like, what the hell? You gave her that? I'm like, bro, I don't even know. She can need like some shots or some shit. Like, I don't even know what the thing is. It's like a petri dish.
Gross. She probably still doesn't trust you.
I don't think she likes cheese very much as a result of that, bro. Oh shit. Anyways, yeah, dude, it's crazy because truly, as a young dad, I mean, you try to you try to find your way, and sometimes, dude, like those shortcuts, they really do backfire, man. They really can just be the bane of your existence.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people like, yo, try to do it right. Try to do it right the first time, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because nobody knows where life's going to take them. Nobody knows, how their relationship's going to turn out. Nobody knows if they're even going to be good parents.
Yeah.
I know for a long time I was not a good parent. I take full accountability and full ownership for that. Part of the reason was I was a 25-year-old young, reckless, selfish kid.
Yeah.
Right. And thank God for his mother, because of all the problems that we had together in our own relationship, she always put him first. And I had a hard time doing that. For me, it was like, okay, it's not my turn to have him. I'm going to go out with my boys. I'm going to go out and do whatever it is that I'm doing. And all of a sudden, I'm not a parent for that 24 hours or 48 hours or however long it was. Whereas she never stopped. Like even when I had him, rightfully so, there was a constant worry about him. There was hey, like, is he fed? Is he changed? Is he getting enough rest? Whatever. Is he still breathing?
Yeah.
Whereas, when she had him, I already knew that he was well taken care of, and I went about my business.
It's interesting. I wonder if that's like a mother instinct, or if that's a person. Like I always remember her being very in tune. I also remember her mother being like pretty heavily involved, and she was always like pretty chill. Like I remember having like interactions with the two of them. But I wonder if that's like a dad thing, because it is easy to, I think as a dad, to sometimes maybe just like turn it off, right? And like it's the mom's responsibility. It's your turn, or you've got this. Hear a baby crying and know in the back of your head that she's going to get the kid, so you don't like immediately jump up and run to the aid or the rescue of the child.
Well, you forget that she's just as inexperienced as you are. Like she's trying to figure it out too. And you're like, oh, well, she has a motherly instinct. All right, I guess. But at the same time, she doesn't know anything, like just like I don't. So she's trying to figure it out the same way that I am. And we all make mistakes. We all, learn as we go. And it was a pretty chaotic time for a while.
That's a really cool perspective for you to say that too, because I think like it's intuitive, right? Like you're recognizing, the simplicity of the situation, but it's true. Like 45, I never really thought about that approach to the fact that she is a new mother and she's also trying to figure it out, because it's very easy to think that because you've carried this child, because you've been around children in your life before, that you know what you're doing. But yeah, that's very real, man. They have no idea what they're doing until they've done it a few times. Yeah.
I mean, I thank God for her mother because she was a huge support. Clearly she had gone through it before, and she was more seasoned and knew exactly what she needed to do and was there to offer guidance and support. Whereas I didn't necessarily have that. My grandmother at the time was in her, 70s. Mm-hmm. She wasn't about having, an infant in her life. She wanted to be the grandma that spoiled them and sent them home full of sugar, right? Like, okay, great. But that doesn't do much for me as far as like helping me out with my time with them. But for her, she had that support system that she could lean on. And without it, I don't think we could have made it. It would have been way more chaotic than it was.
So you guys lived in Seattle till he was, what, 3, 4?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years old.
And so you moved down. She also had a network or already had some type of foundation down here in Arizona, right? That she like kind of moved into?
I don't remember exactly. I remember not wanting to leave Seattle. I remember thinking, this is my home. I have a life set up here. I don't want to move to a different state and start over. I think that it was something to do with her mom, because her mom came down here too.
Yeah.
And they both were like, we need to get out of Washington. We're going to Arizona. Do you want to come? And I fought it with every fiber of my being. And it wasn't until, I knew you were down here. But I remember you came up north to help us with another situation, and you were like, let's all go down there together. Mm-hmm. So it made it a lot easier for me to come down with a support system of having my boys with me, her already being here, grandma already being here. It was as easy as the transition as it was going to get.
Do you remember, like, at the time, so you're, probably at this time, 29, maybe flirting with 30 or something like that. Do you remember Ryder coming down here being a determining factor if you wanted to come as well?
Yeah, I knew that wherever he was going to be, that's where I wanted to be.
Okay.
Based on the fact that he's my son. Like, I didn't want him 3,000 miles away from me. I mean, what if something happened? How am I supposed to, what am I going to do? All right, this happened. I'll see you in 24 hours or 12 hours or however long. Like,
yeah. What was the connection like at that time with you and him? Do you remember? Did you guys like kick it all the time? Were you guys always playing and having fun? Was it?
Yeah, I mean, it was still very separated. His mom and I went through a pretty interesting dynamic as far as our relationship went. We hated each other at times. We loved each other at times. We supported each other at times, and we, sabotaged each other at times. It was very up and down. But through it all, he was such a sweet kid, and he just wanted to have a good time and, hang out with his dad. Mm-hmm. And, it didn't matter what we were doing as long as we were doing it together. He was set.
Yeah. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah. It was always important for me to remain a foundation for him, somebody that he could call, somebody he could be like, hey, you know, come hang out with me, come pick me up. I can't wait for this weekend kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, him and I, we've always had a great relationship. Until I damaged it, you know, like I made selfish decisions that, you know, got me in trouble with the law, young and dumb and out doing things that I don't do now. But when you're doing those kind of activities, those are the chances that you're going to take, right? And yeah, they caught up with me. I ended up doing a little over a year away from him, which was really tough and really hard to explain where I was and why I was there.
You remember what it was like when you got out of lockup? Like seeing him?
I just remember how big he was. You know, like I had missed so many important moments that it kind of shocked me that he was all of a sudden now a young human and not my little baby bouncing boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, man. It's tough to not wear that feeling of like I've lost too much time, or you know, now I gotta make up for this, that, and the other thing. Like it's tough picking up the pieces for sure.
Yeah. But that goes with every facet of your life, right? So when that kind of thing happens, you know, you're picking up, all right, I need to get a place, I need to get a job, I need to get money in my account, I need to, you know, like your own concerns and your own worries fall in line with, I need to reconnect with my son. And where does he fit in those priorities? Like, how do I spend time with him if I don't have a house, right? So for, you know, it was longer than just being away. It was also getting a foundation once I got home.
Yeah, the recovery time.
Right.
Yeah, for sure, man. So yeah, dude, you come back, you're back in his life. At this point, like I remember him being over at the house all the time when we were living together in Tempe, man.
Yeah.
I explicitly remember like him coming into the room and kicking it because dude, he loved kicking it with Mars, bro. She had been around, you know, her sisters had kids, boys, and so she had been around like younger kiddos, and I think he's probably around Ricky's age, maybe like 4 or 5 years younger than Ricky, but dude, she loved that fool, bro. She loved that fool, and he loved her too. And I just remember him always coming, like, you know, he wouldn't even knock, bro. He just like open the door and like come and jump on the bed. I remember
He still does.
Yeah, bro. I remember his little ass. He wouldn't even like he was so small that he would have to run and like belly scoot onto the bed.
Yeah.
To like jump onto it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, the biggest problem with that was he would run out of Lux for him and try to jump in the pool. And I'd just be like, oh my God.
yeah, I can't help. I can't swim, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm asleep. He's fucked.
Bro. So over time, I mean, baby's mom moves back to Seattle.
Yeah.
She takes him.
Yeah.
You stay.
Yeah.
Bro. Talk about that. Like, what was that like when you had to make a decision to stay behind, knowing that it was probably the best thing for you and your decision making, your lifestyle, but also it meant distancing, you know, you and your shorty.
Yeah, that was probably one of the hardest decisions that I've made in my life, because I had said that I always wanted to be where he was, right? But experiencing the things that I experienced and walking the roads that I walked, starting over again was a little bit more complicated this time.
Yeah, just not a realistic option.
Sure. On top of the fact that, you know, I was starting to come out of my young and dumb phase and moving more into, you know, I'm taking my life seriously. So when she left and went back to Washington, I knew that Washington didn't have anything left to offer me. I knew that Arizona is a place where I wanted to end up and experience everything that it had to offer. I'm rubbing elbows with people that I never would have known in Washington. It just, overall, it was a better situation for me here, and in turn was a better situation for him in the long run.
So he still came down to visit? You guys still split time, just long distance?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as much. I mean, I would see him for, he would come down for a month, or he would come down for, his summer break or whatever the case may be. But it was a lot more difficult because now he's growing into a young man, and there's things that I'm missing, like those guiding points on his decision-making process and why he should be making the decisions that he did or didn't. I got really, really lucky that he's always had a very, very good head on his shoulders, that he's always been a very empathetic human being, that he's always been a nice human being, which was 180 degrees from where I was. So I got very, very lucky in the aspect of he's making the right decisions without me. And a lot of that credit goes to his mom. I mean, I can talk shit about her all day, but I'll tell you what, she did a great job with him.
100%. Yeah, he's a fantastic human.
Yeah.
Do you think in some weird fucked up way that like the mistakes that you made guided him to not emulate those behaviors or to not do those things? I mean, I know he was young when, a lot of that stuff was going on, but the lifestyle, he was around it. He saw it.
Yeah,
he's a person. He was aware.
I still carry a lot of guilt for the things that he's witnessed and the things that he's been around, and the positions that I've put him in. But ultimately, he has always been really good at making up his own mind. You could offer him words of advice. As far as learning from my mistakes, maybe. I'm not sure. That's a really, really hard thing for anybody to do. Like, you're not going to tell me nothing. I'm going to figure it out on my own, whether that be a mistake or the right thing to do. You don't really know until the outcome plays, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I look back at, my pops wasn't really in my life, until recently. He moved to Arizona, and now he's a huge part of my life. But man, I fucking had a lot of anger and resentment and hate towards him, and then I became him.
Yeah.
And then I was like, holy shit, this is enlightening.
Yeah, I mean,
he never had to become you to steer away from some of those situations, I guess is what I'm getting at, right? And I remember when he first moved back here, but when he moved back here this time, and I was able to spend time with him and in like a young adult capacity, I was pretty marveled at his education level, the way he carries himself, the way he speaks, the way he views certain situations. He's intelligent, man, and he's aware politics, like overall, like humanitarian, like behaviors and movements. Like he's a really dope person, not just because he's family, but because that's the type of person I would want to spend time with and that I would like want around my children. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, like he's always been incredibly intelligent. I'd love to say that he got that from me.
Don't blame me, man. I already know.
I'd love to say he got that from me. But yeah, he's made the right choices as far as his ideologies and the way that he treats people, the way that he empathizes with people. He's always been an example for me, even though it's supposed to be the other way around. I've learned just as much from him as, he has from me. And it's been a joy to watch him grow to the young man that he is, because I've been really, really lucky.
And you guys still living together now? He's living at the house in Arizona?
Yeah. He moved in with me, God, I want to say probably 4 years ago or so, full time. And, you know, he's been great. He's fucking slob, but, you know, like if I had to pick my poisons of, hey, are you going to be a shitty human being, or are you not going to clean your room? I'll take the
for sure,
dirty room all day.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely. So yeah, dude, I remember when he decided to move back down here, we actually went to Lake Havasu. Bro, I've never seen somebody burn the way that fool burned. He had like sunburns on the top of his hands and shit, bro. It was the craziest places for this kid to get sunburned.
Yeah.
But so he got to a certain age and he was able to kind of make decisions for himself. And he said, hey, I want to go stay down with dad. I want to explore, you know, another side of parenting and check out Arizona. Obviously, like Seattle has its perks. I know he was living in Tacoma, like Hillside area or whatever, but you know, I know that there is, you know, value in staying in an area that you know, but we also see the same value in removing yourself from a situation that might not have a lot of potential. So he shows up down here. He's working with you. He's living with you, man. Like, what's the dynamic now from a father-son relationship?
You know, I love it. I honestly wouldn't want it any other way. All of the times that I missed when he was younger, I'm able to make up for now. And to be able to just be around him as an adult and bounce ideas off each other and bounce ideologies off each other and be able to speak about whatever it is may be going on, whether that be a situation at work or the political climate or, you know, the differences between Seattle and here. I'm honestly, the way that I look at it, I'm glad that he grew up in Seattle and kind of immersed himself in the dynamics of Seattle, because they're so far removed from what they are down here.
Yeah.
I think that's what helped shape his mind frame as far as, you know, judging people based on their actions, not what they look like. Being empathetic all the way around, his first thought is one of, how can I help? And that's amazing. It makes me super proud of him.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Rare. Also.
Rare.
You know, there's a lot of people around his age, you know, early 20s. And, you know, you've been in the hospitality game for a long time. Your position is that of leadership. So you're in charge of, you know, hiring and termination. But more importantly than anything is coaching and development and getting people where they need to be up to speed with, you know, the workforce. Do you notice a big difference between the way that he works and the way that other people around his age work?
You know, not really. He's still a 21-year-old kid. You know, like he does everything that's required of him. He's never late. He shows up on time. He does everything that's asked of him. But, you know, he gets tired. He gets cranky, just like I do. You know, like nobody's exempt from that. But overall, yeah, he does a great job. It's a little bit harder for me because I am in that leadership position, and I don't want there ever to be somebody to say, oh, the nepotism is real, right? Like, he's your son, he gets away with this. So if anything, it's a little bit harder for him because I treat him harder than I do other employees based on the fact that he is my son. My whole thought process at work is, how can I be as fair as possible? And that's difficult to mix when you have your son there. Somebody from the outside could easily be like, he's not being fair. Mm-hmm. So I overcompensate for that.
Sure.
And that you know, 9 times out of 10, he's like, what the fuck did I do? You know?
You're representing me, boy.
But he's taken it in stride. He's super accomplished. He's completed, multiple different positions. I can take him from one side, put him on the other, and he's going to excel just as he did in his normal position. Mm-hmm. And he's one of my jackknives. Like, I can use him in multiple different areas. And can I say that about the rest of my staff? Some of them.
Yeah.
Certainly not all of them.
Yeah. It's interesting too. I think working with one of my kiddos, man, I can be brutally honest and real, and it's not always incredibly well received, because I'm very honest and direct. I think a lot of people don't speak to each other that way, don't lead that way, aren't clear with the expectations, holding people to a high standard of accountability. And I am that way, which has been, I think, a little maybe embarrassing at times, for her to think that she's not performing to a certain standard. But the fact of the matter is, I'm like, yo, you're doing well. I just need this to be different, or I need you to move quicker. I need you to be thorough when you're doing this activity, or whatever the case may be. And that's like, it's caused like a couple of headbutts between us, a couple different times. I'm like, yo, I love you. Like, it has nothing to do, like, this isn't personal, man. This is work.
Sure.
And so teaching them how to separate work from, taking things personal, it's a professional environment, I think is cool. But I think one of the things that I like the most about having a young child working is that you actually get to see their development when they start interacting with adults more than children, right? Because school is everything, for a kid. They think that that's the way that the world works. They think that's going to be forever, and I do believe that the dynamic between young girls' relationships and young boys' relationships are quite a bit different, because girls are like, bro, they're pretty fucking heartless, bro. They're treacherous to each other.
Yeah.
And so watching, some of these friendships, crumble or unfold, and they're like, oh my God, this is what life's going to be like. And then they get into an environment where it's a bunch of adults, and sometimes adults also act childish, but they start to see things differently and more clearly and through a different lens, which I think like boosts their confidence. I've just watched, my oldest just fucking change, bro. It's really cool to watch that happen.
Yeah, he's accomplished so much in such a short amount of time that, to watch him have relationships and dynamics with people that I might not be as close with, or, experience his own opinions of whatever it is that's being talked about or being, shared or even not being shared. It's great to be able to watch him kind of navigate his own path through that without my assistance. Like, I can't remember the last time he was like, what do you think about this relationship? Mm-hmm. That kind of thing doesn't happen. He leans on me for things regarding to work, never about people. He always forms his own opinion on the people that he's involved with.
That's really cool. Yeah, I like that, man. I think that young kids finding their way and navigating is hugely important. As much as I want to be an inspiration or a guide for my kiddos, I like to give them the tools and the resources to do it and then find their own way. I don't want to like be too much of an influence that they just regurgitate the same things that I think or feel, if they're not their own thoughts or feelings. You know what I mean?
I love it when he disagrees with me. Mm-hmm. I love it because even though I may see a situation one way, he could look at it from a completely different way. And us meeting in the middle is one of the things that, I find really, really special about working with him in a professional relationship.
Dude, it's perspective, right? Because that's how life is. People don't always agree, right? Like you and I might not always agree. And I don't even know that you necessarily have to find common ground. There's a respect factor, and, people set boundaries on things that they're like, they're steadfast and like certain on. But I think historically, so like our generation, we grew up with a lot of parents that basically like, it's my way or the highway. This is what we believe in this house. We study this religion, and, we're loyal to this. We listen to this music when we're driving because this is what mom likes to listen to, or this is what dad likes to listen to. And I think like our approach is different, bro. Like it's much more open to like, you do you, I'll do me. Let's have conversations about it. Let's learn each other. Let's get to know each other. And it doesn't have to be like me against you or align with me or else.
I don't think our relationship has ever been in a point where it's been me against you.
But you know that's rare, right? Like I'm sure you watch other people parent and stuff like that. I mean, have you noticed that your relationship with Ryder is different?
I mean, besides our close friend group, right? You, our friend Devin, I don't really see a bunch of parenting. I hear about things, at work, stories, and this is what we did, but it's always painted in a positive light. I'm sure that there are my way is the highway type of people. I've never understood that. I've never understood people that, are super strict. I don't feel that necessarily promotes a conversation, or, it for me, it creates better liars,
Yeah.
Like if you can't come to me and tell me the truth, and now I'm going to beat you up for telling you the truth, why would I? Right? Like now I'm going to hide it from you.
Yeah, do and say anything I fucking can so that you don't find out what actually went down.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't think I recall grounding one of my children once, but I look back at my youth growing up, and if somebody told me I was grounded, I mean, not on some, well, I guess, yes, very disrespectful, but I'd be like, yeah, that doesn't really work for me. That's probably not gonna last and be a thing. And I don't know, I never got the result out of me that I think my parent was looking for, and it's not going to get the result out of my kids that I'm looking for. I just have an honest ass conversation. Like I'm very real. I try to solve shit with words.
Yeah, and I think that's the correct approach. I am not a disciplinarian by any means. I like to be able to speak to him about it and be like, hey man, like we need to accomplish this and this. How do we get there? Rather than the heavy hand approach.
Yeah.
I just don't think it works.
Yeah. Discipline, no. Accountability, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Mr. Accountable for sure, bro. Like I'm all over that shit.
Yeah.
I think one time one of my kids raised their voice to my wife, bro. And I must have popped up out of nowhere like a fucking Jack in the Box, bro. Like, who do you think you're talking to? And it was just like, but yeah, other than that, man, like, honestly, I try to be like as cool as possible and solve things with words and communicate often. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of that falls on the child too, though. Like as they come to find out, their own actions are going to have repercussions, whether they be good or whether they be bad. And for me, it's never been about, well, I give him a lot of credit because he's never given me a reason to be overly,
reactive to a situation.
Reactive, yeah, exactly. He's always had the mindset of a good kid, and I try to not keep the blinders on, and maybe I'm just seeing what I want to see kind of thing. So I spend a lot of time watching him when he doesn't know that I'm watching. Mm-hmm. And what you do in the dark defines who you are, right? And he's never done anything for me to be like, this involves a correction, a hard correction.
Right.
So I can't say the same for other people. I'm sure that, there are kids out there that do need a hard correction. And I am not saying by no means don't discipline your kid. I feel like
just hasn't been appropriate in your situation.
It just hasn't been appropriate in mine.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've seen parenting, books or, little snippets and shows and stuff like that. And it's like, hey, to get your kid to stop hitting, I'm like, Hitting?
Why are they
Like,
hitting?
holy shit. That escalated quick, bro. Like, your kids got the balls to put hands on you? Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
But also just my situation's been different, man. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe I was real quick, real early to set some boundaries, man. And also, like, I wouldn't put my hands on my kids. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a line that we don't cross, bro. It kind of goes without say for us in our household. But I don't know, man. Like, because we grew up in a generation where, boy, you pop off at the mouth, you can get the belt.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure kids were still able to get, like, smacked with rulers and shit like that by teachers, like, at the early parts of our education.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up putting hands on each other.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that was the school of hard knocks that we both attended.
Yep.
And putting hands on each other was something that we did often. Me more than most.
Yep.
However, that was the wrong approach. And it didn't take long, for me to realize, listen, somebody's going to get seriously hurt. And this shouldn't be a thing. But as far as my son, I've never had to put hands on him in any kind of corrective manner ever.
Yeah. I think, violence at an early age when we were growing up, man, was very common. That's how people solve problems, a fist fight, people are beating each other up by the lockers or whatever, like early ages, it's rock fights and shit like that,
Sure.
But now I feel like things just escalate so quickly to an element of violence that you can't recover from, right? Like, I've worn a black eye, bro. I've probably worn two. Had a broken nose, had all sorts of, the walk of shame after you catch an ass whooping, or the victory of knocking somebody out. But now it's like how quickly that turns into a knife or how quickly that turns into a gun. And even in a school setting, I mean, thankfully, Ryder was already completing the schooling portion before a lot of the other shit started to evolve at schools. But I still got three. Two are going to public high school and one's going to a public junior high. And I mean, that's some real ass shit,
Yeah.
to think about.
It's crazy the way that the whole thing has evolved into life or death. For us, yes, there were fights, there were stabbings, there were shootings, but not to the degree that it is now. Nobody walked into a school and caused the destruction that they're causing now. Nobody was having the conversation of should teachers be armed. Nobody was having the conversation of metal detectors and all
See-through
at schools
backpacks and
see-through backpacks and,
Yep.
and police presence and blah blah blah. Like, if the cops were at school, that means
Somebody got caught with some
somebody
weed.
got caught with something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not kidding myself either. Ryder didn't go to,
Yeah, he didn't go to a
private
public
school.
preparatory school, man, by any means.
like Ryder was in Hilltop, Tacoma, and those guys don't play.
Yeah.
Right. So he needed to figure out how to navigate that kind of situation. Gang activity is prevalent, and wearing the wrong color could cause escalation. And
Could unalive your ass.
yeah, and it's not new, but at the same time, when it's your kid, fuck, that's a worry.
Right? I guess that's the thing too, man, is that it's super easy to turn a blind eye or to not take it serious if it doesn't affect your kiddos. But the reality is, like, dude, having three still going to school, man, it's a very real topic of discussion for me and my household.
I can imagine. I mean, I know Ryder didn't necessarily have to go through it, but I'm sure your girls do, where they have like school shooting drills.
All the time. Active shooter drill. I think that's what they call it. Active shooter drill. Something like that, where they like barricade themselves in the classroom and they have somebody come and bang on the door and pretend like they're a student in need or whatever to see if they can get you to open the door, et cetera, et cetera.
What kind of fucking world are we living in where that's a thing?
That's crazy, bro.
It's crazy.
Dude, last night, my oldest was like, hey, I'm trying to cruise out and meet up with my friends. I'm like, dude, it's Sunday. She's like, it's spring break. I'm like, fuck. I kind of hope you just wanted to like stay at home and like, you don't want to watch this show? She's like, no, dude, I want to go hang with my friends. I'm like, okay. Be safe, man. Like, damn, dude. Just like the anxiety of a kid going out there, right? And she's like, I'm always driving safe. I'm like, Bear, it's not about you. You know what I mean? Like, it's very
But that's
seldom
also
is
the
it you,
difference.
you know?
That's also the difference of having a girl versus having a boy.
Potentially. I never had a boy, so I couldn't speak to it.
I can say honestly, I've never worried once about his like safety being out. I can say that there's been a few times where he's been like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with my friends. And, you know, it's 3, 4 a.m. and he's still not home. And I'll check his location and I'll be like,
Passed out on somebody's couch.
yeah,
Yeah.
like he's fine.
So, okay. Ryder doesn't drive. He does like the Waymo and the Uber and all that shit,
yeah.
right? So add that element. Put him behind the wheel of a car, right? Now there's an additional stress because all it takes is somebody else to be intoxicated, not paying attention, looking at their phone. They blow a red light. Homeboy could have the green, right? Like she could be doing everything she needs to be doing and following all the rules of the road, but all it takes is that one person to not be paying attention and they can straight up like unalive your entire squad or your child or whatever the case may be, right? So like that's a weird thing that I have to come to terms with. I can't protect them from everything, right? Like, and I don't want to hold her back from flourishing and enjoying her spring break and spending time. But that's like a crazy different type of stress that I never really thought I would feel, and it's over fucking whelming.
I can imagine that's true. I try to never live my life by a what if scenario. I feel like that's a good way to drive yourself crazy and cover the walls with pillows. Mm-hmm. There are things all of the time that could happen. Yes, you try to prepare yourself for things that are most likely to happen. But we don't live in a world where it's sunshine and rainbows out every day, you know? Like, there's only so much we can do. We can pass on the knowledge to our kids to try to keep them safe. But ultimately, you're right. Like, something could happen at any given time. But that's out of our control.
Yeah, I try not to prepare myself for that. I try to prepare them for that.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Because the reality is, I just put on a movie and I just fucking try to get it out of my mind, bro. There's nothing else I can really do, you know? Right. But thank God for location sharing, bro. Could you imagine not having that? Like for me specifically with young girls? Because when we grew up, there was no sharing anything, bro. We had beepers and shit, and who knows, bro? You might end up in Bellevue or you might end up in Tacoma. Shit, you could end up in Bellingham. Who knows?
Yeah. Technology as a whole, I mean, say what you want. It makes me feel better.
It makes me feel better and worse. a whole little bundle of joy, bro.
Sure.
Best of both worlds. So you recently got married, dude?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's huge.
You know, I waited a long time, and I'm really, really thankful that I waited as long as I did.
You know what's funny? So I've done a couple shows with people who have had kids in their like early 40s, mid 40s, and I'm like, fuck, man, I had kids late. But also, like now I feel like I'm actually prepared to approach it responsibly and maturely.
Sure.
Which definitely, like looking at people who had kids in their 20s, you know, I'm like, man, there's perks.
See their point.
There's perks to hold off, man, for sure.
Yeah. No, for me, my whole concept of love and marriage has always been based on my grandmother and what she did with her husband. That truly defined love for me. And I knew what my grandfather was to my grandmother, and I wanted to wait for that person. And if I didn't find her, it was what it was. But I'm really thankful that I did.
That's what's up.
Yeah, she's a blessing in my life in every single way. So,
and you think you waited because you wanted to emulate those same behaviors or characteristics that your grandfather did for your grandmother?
When my grandfather died, my grandmother lived an additional close to 20 years. She was so committed to him that it didn't matter that he had passed. she remained loyal to him. That was, there were several times where I was like, Grandma, like, what are you doing? Go out there, meet somebody, go laugh, go whatever.
Yeah.
Like, go live a life.
Explore, have a glass of wine.
Sure.
Yeah.
And she was like, I've had the love of my life. I've had everything that I needed in this life as far as love goes. And I've always wanted that. I've always wanted that person where I was so happy with that if she passed on tomorrow, that I could say I had the love of my life.
You were completed.
I was completed.
It's powerful.
I'm incredibly lucky that the stars aligned the way that they did, that brought her into my life, because she's my everything. Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
She had a shorty already that she brought into the marriage. You brought Ryder in.
Yeah. Her child is the same age as Ryder, so it made things relatively easy. As far as when we started dating or whatever, I didn't have to go back a step and be like, okay, I remember what it was like when my kid was 7. Let me go back to that.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Because they were the same age, it really made things a lot easier. However, now it's not one adult that I'm intertwining my life with, it's 2.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've been incredibly lucky with her too.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
What time, like how long into the relationship before you guys start introducing kids to each other and shit like that? Because I feel like that's like a sensitive thing, right? If you're dating somebody, but you got a kid, you wait until it's right to introduce a kid, because what I know from my experience is that as a younger person, even into your 20s, that type of person being introduced to my life, I'm going to get attached pretty quick. Sure. Right? Like I'm going to put myself out there and either like put up a big ass wall and not get attached, or I'm going to do the opposite and I'm going to run and attach.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
For me, I tried to be as sensitive I could to her needs. Ryder was still in Seattle when her and I hooked up initially, so the option of her meeting him wasn't
even there.
Wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I met her child relatively quick. Like it didn't take very long. There was, I think it was pretty much over COVID when I remember her calling me, and this was before we even hooked up. They were both down with COVID, and she didn't know if her kid was sick or not and wanted to get her tested. So I was like, yeah, I'll come take her to the doctor and get her tested and see what's what. Mm-hmm. Turns out she had COVID too, so
did you.
I've never had it.
Shut up, for real.
I've never had it.
You're one of those fucking carriers, bro.
Yeah, super spreader.
Yeah, fucking stay with it.
Super spreader, man. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was lucky or not. I kept wanting it. I remember I was like, how come everybody gets 5 days off of work but me?
Bro,
man?
I got the OG one, the first one that came around. I mean, bro, it was basically the same as the flu, but I was sick as fuck for a hot minute. Yeah. I didn't like it very much.
I wanted it. I tried.
I'm sure you see.
I tried.
Go lick a doorknob, bro. I'm sure you'll get it.
No, like cough in this pillow and let me sleep on it.
That's funny shit. So yeah, dude. Did your wife have a like an ex that was in the picture with the kiddos and shit? Like what was that like?
Well, she didn't make her by herself.
But was his dude in the picture?
No, I've never met him. Well, actually, that's not true. I did meet him once, but it was long before we were dating, and certainly long before we were married. Seemed like a normal guy. Mm-hmm. I can't judge him one way or the other. I don't know.
Yeah. Is he still in the picture?
No.
No parenting or anything like that?
No, and to me, I'm not sure how that happens. But it gives me the ability to be that person in her life that she doesn't have. So to me, I would have accepted it either way. Mm-hmm. I can't say that I'm glad that he's not there. I can't say that I'm glad that he is there. I'm glad that the situation is what it is because it's enabled me to establish the relationship that I have with her. So Yeah. As far as I know, it's great.
I think about like the outside looking in, you know, from being a step parent or being a stepchild. Like I feel like that would be challenging to merge your life in a way that felt genuine. It just kind of happens naturally. Like I feel like as a parent, you know, you have to apply yourself, right, to try to connect with another child, to earn the trust, to earn the respect. I'm sure that like there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, you're right. The thing that's different for us, though, is that she's not a child. She's an adult. Mm-hmm. And she loves her mother unconditionally. And their relationship is so incredibly tight and close-knit. And they're, you know, each other's best friends. And I love that. You know, they are a package deal. They come, you get one, you get the other one, and that's the way that it is. That's the way that it's always been. And I've been extremely fortunate to have both of them in my life. They're amazing people.
That's what's up, man.
Both of them.
You've been doing some learning lately too, huh?
You know, I'm getting old, man. I'm getting old.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's wild. Thinking about how long ago it was that you had, you know, Ryder and all the development now. I mean, dude, there's a chance. So if he's about to be 22, if he had a kid the same age that you did in three years, you could be a grandparent.
I don't want to think about that. There's a chance, yes. But going back to what we were talking about earlier, I don't think that he would make the same decisions I did. He could.
I mean, that's the thing too, though, right? So at 25 years old to be a parent, you weren't ready.
No.
Doesn't mean he wouldn't be ready.
He won't be.
Stranger things have happened, bro. Like
not that strange.
So all I'm saying is that given a situation like, dude, like sometimes like I've seen some amazing people have kids and not be very good parents. And I've seen some people that I thought would not be good parents at all have kids. And I'm like, holy shit, where did that come from? Like completely changed them around. So like I think honestly, you never know what you're going to get. It took me a couple years to get my shit in gear, bro, because I was honestly still a very drunk, detached, selfish human being for the first couple of years. You know, I remember Marcia was pregnant with G, and it was like, I think she was like 3 months into that pregnancy before I was like, yo, I need to figure it out, bro, and get my shit together. And that's when I started being sober. But now at this point in my life, I mean, like my kids are so much to me that, dude, I'm excited about being a grandparent, bro. Like I think about that shit, bro. I can't wait to be a grandparent. I'm going to be the coolest motherfucking grandpa ever.
That stresses me out. Man.
Really?
Yeah. I still don't feel prepared to be a parent. You know what I mean? Like, even now still, I'm like, Jesus, the fact that I pulled that off blows my mind. But I'm also not done, you know? Like, I'm a parent for as long as he's alive. So it's one of those things where I have to remind myself, he's his own human. He's going to make his own decisions. But even 25, 26 years ago, even in your case, you know, 17 years ago, 16 years ago, just let's talk about finances. How do you?
Oh yeah, it was awful.
How do you afford a child now? How do you do that? I mean,
I got 3, bro, and shit's getting more and more expensive. My insurance is crazy, bro. My Costco bills are crazy. When I go to Costco and my shit's only like $300, I'm like, ooh, baby. Holy
Deal.
shit, that was amazing,
you see that
bro.
receipt.
Yeah, because the reality is, I mean, dude, I cook no more or no less than like 14 eggs every morning.
Damn.
Bro, eggs are like a fucking $1 a piece right now. Damn. It's insane. But there's 5 of us, right? Add my dogs. They're Frenchies, so they eat like the most bougie ass food because they drink tap water and they're fucked in the game. You know, you gotta like give them, you know, the finest bottled water and foods and stuff. But I mean, the reality is like everything's expensive, man. I don't know, like how do we do it now? I don't know, the same way our parents did it then and the same way that we did it when we had it. Like you find a way because when you're a parent, you don't have a fucking choice.
Right.
Like, you don't have a choice. That's it. Like, I watch people who struggle to set their own like dental appointments, or to, you know, find car insurance and stuff like that. And here I'm like trying to like juggle all these things for all these kids, and, you know, braces for these kids and this, that, and the other thing. And it's not because I'm like this amazing multitasker, bro. I suck, you know, at multitasking, but because I don't have a choice, because it's my responsibility. It's like they can't do it for themselves. So that's, I don't know. That's just where I come in.
I get that. But where Ryder had his grandmother as a source of, you know, stability, and where he had that extra layer of structure, for me to be that person, I don't know. I mean, I hope
you
that,
and your wife, man, that's a team effort, bro.
yeah. But I just hope that process takes a little bit longer than 25 years old.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Looking back now, so as he's 22, I mean, what's one of your biggest victories? What's your biggest thing that you're most proud of?
He makes me proud every day. I can't say that there's one accomplishment that he's had that just stands out where I'm like, you know, this is the thing that I tell everybody that he's done. It's more of a day-to-day kind of, today he did this that made me super proud of him. Today he acted this way that made me super proud of him. Today he, you know, helped this person that made me proud of him. It's a more of a combined sort of life that he's lived that makes me proud on the daily basis. You know, he goes through life at his own pace, and he's not ashamed of that. And I love that for him because he's figuring it out on his own. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah. Do you think now financial literacy, because you and I were reckless as fuck with money from an early age, do you think financial literacy is something that he's going to be better at than you?
I don't know.
You guys discuss?
I try to guide him. You know, we want to start credit at a young age. We want to
You got a credit card?
establish that line of credit as soon as possible. So that's something that I'm like, okay, look, I know with, you know, American Express, right? Their bots take over from midnight to 3 a.m. So that's when we're going to apply. And that's when, you know, I'm going to hold on to that credit card. I'm going to ensure that, you know, nothing crazy happens. But there's certain things where I'm like, hey, like, you love video games. Stock market's video game. Let me show you how that works. Like, let's play around with that a little bit. Let's let your money make money. And I've tried to get him involved in that. It doesn't interest him.
Not interested. Yeah. I think it takes a while before you actually find any type of desire to learn that shit because, dude, being young and not having to claim cash tips, you know, when you're like a server or a bartender and you're like, man, I only made 30 grand. I don't have to pay any taxes. I'm getting money back. And then you want to buy a car and they're like, dude, you don't make shit.
Right.
We're not giving you a loan. Right. Same thing with the home later on in life. So you like, unfortunately, those things are learned later on in life when they come to bite you in the ass. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I really think that different people have different mindsets when it comes to things, especially like money. Like, you take, for instance, Kristen's daughter. She is a financial fucking guru.
Mm-hmm.
She has multiple accounts, multiple different stock options, heavily involved in crypto, heavily involved in, you know, 401k and
Already got a Roth set up and all that,
yeah, her Roth is filled yearly, and she's going to be the one that takes care of us when we're old. You know what I mean?
Not Ryder, bro.
Not Ryder. Ryder's going to be making his own way, whereas, you know, Kristen's daughter is making moves that if I made when I was that age, I'd be living a different life.
And here you are.
And here I am.
With me.
Me and you, buddy.
Yeah, bro. Last question for you, man. If you had to describe how you want to be viewed by your kiddos, like how would you want them to talk about you? Like what would make you feel good about the way that you're being remembered? Like what would you want them to say? I've never hit anybody with that question before. I know it's a loaded question, man, but
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. You would think that, ultimately, I want my kids to look at me and realize that even though I may talk my shit, even though I'm sarcastic 95% of the time, ultimately, when it comes down to it, if you ask me for help, I'm going to be there to give it. And even though I'm going to hit you with some sarcastic bullshit before, I'm going to try to be as empathetic as possible and make that scenario happen for people if they need me. Also, being fair, man. Like, I think that being fair is one of those things that it's underrated. Fair doesn't mean that you win all of the time. Fair means that you're going to lose some of those battles, but the odds aren't going to be stacked against you either. And I want people like Chris, like Ryder, to look at me and learn from my mistakes, as well as try to adapt the things that they like about my thought process and way of life.
I must say, from our childhood growing up to who sits before me, man, you do exemplify and possess those qualities, man, of integrity, accountability, reliability. I have many stories in my mind of how I could say this is when you displayed this characteristic and the other one. But yeah, dude, you are all those things, and maybe not just to the children, but to the other people that you affect in your life, man.
Well, I try to be. I've had good role models. I've had the pleasure of, not only watching Ryder grow up, but I've watched you too, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like we've watched each other from a very, very young age. And I think we've bounced a lot of things off of each other that, without overstating it, could have saved our lives. So we've been incredibly blessed in not only dealing with the hardships of a younger life, but overcoming those things and being able to make our lives better in pretty much every way.
Yeah, being young and setting yourself up for failure, man, making a whole bunch of shitty decisions and being able to crawl out of a grave, man, is pretty huge for us, man.
Yeah, it's been a journey, but it never stops. We have to continue moving forward, to continue to learn, to continue to be able to talk to our kids and be able to learn in real time. And I think that when you get to a certain age, all of a sudden people are like, I know it all. And that's bullshit.
No, I'm still in the classroom, bro. I'm still learning on the daily.
Feel like we'll be there until we die, man.
Yeah, facts. I was at your wedding, went to Puerto Rico, saw you commit your life to your wife, got to meet your daughter, got to see your son. I must say the most memorable part of that entire trip for me was when you gave a speech to everybody directly, which was meaningful and impactful, bro, for every guest that was in attendance. But the way that you spoke to your daughter and exemplifying these emotionally vulnerable qualities and telling her what she means to you, bro, was probably one of the most beautiful and impactful things that I recall from that trip. The trip was off the hook. There was so many crazy fucking things that happened for me because that's when my shorty choked on a chip back in the States, man. It was nuts, but blessed to have been a part of it, dude. Love the way you get down. Love the way that you parent, man. We've got so much more that we could talk up. Dude, I'm getting the heads up. We ran out of time, but we could probably do this for a couple days, man, as long as we had enough coffee to get us through. I'd love to invite you back on the show, man. Have another conversation. Dive into some more deep shit, man. maybe some of the situations that we've been through and kind of how we came out on top, or maybe didn't come out on top, but still survived the crash.
Sure.
So dude, thank you, man. Love you, bro. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. I'll get you back on the books, man. Is there anything else you got for me, bro?
No, I just, I want to say, it's been a pleasure. It's always great to, just talk about life with you.
Yeah, man.
As, I've been through my entire life, I've really been inspired by you and your approach to things. This is no different. Super proud of you, man.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. I must say, parenting has brought out something in me that I didn't know that I possessed, but life, right?
You're good at it.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate you, bro. To everybody else out there, all my listeners, all my viewers, thank you so much for checking out the show. You know what to do, man. Like, subscribe, tell a friend, tell a dad, tell a mom, tell a shorty. Until next time, keep it real. Thank you for joining us on the Dope Dad Podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to share it with a friend. You can support the show by giving a like, sharing, and subscribing, and you can find us on YouTube or wherever you're getting your podcast fix. If there's content you'd like to hear more of, please leave a comment. We'll make sure we try to get it in the show. Continue to tune in for more dope guests and real conversation.